And it didn't occur to me till the last couple of days that that the other members of our committee had no way of knowing unless they happened upon our website that we were meeting tonight. So Naomi got word, but I'm not sure whether she was going to be able to get on or not. So we and then there was a couple other people who had expressed some interest in the past, and I spoke to. They weren't available tonight, but I think they may at some point be interested in participating. So I will talk with them again to see. But right, because we'll be assuming that Liz does and and Naomi does. We'll be one person down because Jackie's no longer with us. So Dave had suggested the other day agenda. I think an agenda is a great idea. We'll do that moving forward to have an agenda that we can post, and that way, I think we kind of knew roughly the agenda in the past, but we hadn't posted it. So, but the other piece, I at one point had expressed wanting to redefine when these meetings are. Instead of having them be the third Monday, have them be always the Monday before the board meeting, which will mostly be the third Monday, but won't always. But I think it's actually fine to leave them as the third Monday. It'll just be 2 months. So December and June, the communications committee meeting will happen after the board meeting. But I think that's fine. So unless anybody else feels otherwise, but we could switch it to the only months, like I said, would if we might not even end up meeting in June. I don't think we met this past June. And so it would really just be December that we're talking about, that we could change that and would want to do that sooner rather than later if we were going to have it be the same week as the board meeting instead of defined as the third Monday. And I wasn't sure at some point, I think the policy committee was talking about being the second Monday, but now I think they're just going to be, what are they defined as now, Dave? You're muted. You're muted. I can't unmute you.
Probably the best I sounded all day. That they're going to be the second Monday from here on out. They just moved this month because Columbus Day was the second Monday this year. Yep. So they're planning second Mondays.
Is it more or less convenient for you to do them on the same day?
If they're on separate days, I don't have to worry about crunching from one to the other. So if a conversation runs longer in one, we don't have to truncate that meeting so I can get to another.
Yeah, that's fine then. Then we won't, like I said, December is really the only month that, I think it's kind of nice to have it before because then we can report to the board, but that'll be fine. We'll just end up with no communications committee meeting between the November and December board meetings. And then we'll have potentially two communications committee meetings between the December and January, but I think that's not that big a deal. So, And then I guess the other thing is to talk a bit about, some priorities that we have. I have a list of priorities for this next session, and but I guess I'm interested in what others on the committee feel are some priorities, things that we would like to focus on.
Bob, I think the item I'll add is the logo for the gym floor. That is needs to happen sooner rather than later, and it's in their approvals. So we need to get that on and get that through so we can get it to architects so they can do the final drops and all the drawings for the painting for next summer. I know it's in the summer, but we know how quick that's going to get to us. So the sooner we can get that set, the better.
Now, what's our target date then on that?
They have not given me a target date other than the sooner the better. I will reach out to Mosaic and Schoolhouse and see what I can find.
Okay. So I guess we don't have minutes from previous meetings, but my recollection is that we had basically come to consensus around an S in the center of the basketball court, and right. So now we're just talking about the details of that S.
Yep. I have those. Amy got first drafts through. Some of them were like, hey, this looked like we wanted to it. Some of them looked like, this did not look like what we wanted it to. So we do have drafts available for folks to look at. That could be a homework type item if the committee wanted to do it that way. And that way we could get it back to Amy and we can do some, any touch-ups before the next meeting comes up.
Yep. Yep. No,
And
that
from
sounds
there,
good.
and then I can have a target date by then. Because that way, like I said, so we can get it set for the floor.
Do we, is that a specific font or is that some rendering that may or may not have a font that is equal to it?
I will send you those two. There are two different fonts to them. One of them I think is just your basic collegiate. You know, that when you look at like Syracuse, it's the Syracuse S. You know, that basic same font. And then there's another one. I don't know if they named it. I don't know. Amy, do you know what the name of the fancier one is?
I think the graphic designer made it up.
Okay. So it's a homegrown font
Right.
for the other S, but I can get that to this group.
Yeah. But we don't have to worry about it, being, stealing a copywritten
Font
or logo from, other universities or schools.
Yep. Perfect. Good. Okay. Yeah. No, I think that makes a lot of sense to get that. At least, I mean, I guess what we would do is make a recommendation to the board, right? We're not in any position to make, as a committee, to make any decisions, but we could come up with a recommendation for the board.
And I don't know, I'm just kind of saying it out loud and I'm not sure it's the best idea or not, but if that would be something, if we could get mock-ups, when we got there, if it'd be something we wanted to ask the community if they had any way in, or that might get tricky if we really don't feel strongly towards what they select.
Yeah. And I think we can absolutely do that, but let's get something that we are like, we like these three and we can't decide between the three.
Right. Yeah,
No.
I agree.
Let's do my suggestion is let's do the meeting first and then we can do a week survey out and, hey guys, here's something that's not COVID related. Pick what you want on the gym.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense.
So you will, so we'll get those and then, so you'll get those to us and then we'll mull over those before the next meeting. Then will be the plan.
Yes.
So actually, let me pull back up my list here. So the, 1 second. All right. Sorry. Searching past my camera there. Okay. So the, what are other, things that jump to the top of people's, lists of things we want to focus on? So I will jump in.
Yeah.
I have a couple. One is a board pamphlet, and so I think that would potentially be print, but also available on the webpage, on the board section of the webpage, and just kind of describing what the deal is. I think lots of people don't really know, what kind of understand, a short piece about kind of organizational structure and what the board does within that organization. And so there's a number of schools that have those, and I have a few copies that I can share from different schools. Scotia Glenville. There's another one that I have, and I couldn't put my hands on here just now, but I think it may be Goshen, and they had a lot of information. I believe it was Goshen, but I can confirm that. And then another board member had shared some stuff with me similar, just same idea of like, this is kind of what we think the community should know. I think most of that's going to be accessed through the webpage, but maybe a trifold or something similar to so that information is available. And I think it also helps people to understand, if you, we've talked about this a bit as a board in the past, is if you have an issue, right? Something that could be a complaint or a question or a concern, that kind of what do you do, and kind of re-emphasizing that where to start with that, and then kind of what all your options are as that unfolds, as you get to yes, as you get to to some sort of resolution. And if you don't, then what you can do. So that's something that's, we've talked about a little bit in the past, and I can share that information. I've just kind of gathered it over the past few years of thinking about potentially doing this at some point. Does that, any objections to starting that process?
No, I can put together a communications chart as well. It's a flow chart that says, if your potential question or issue is this, it directs you who to go to, and so on until you eventually get to the board. It's not start at the board and work backwards. It's the chain of command.
Right, and I think that's something that we can refer people to. Now Cambridge has one on their calendar,
Yeah,
which
I
I
mean,
thought was a great place to put it. I don't think it's really well laid out. From my perspective, I would like to lay ours out a little bit differently.
Okay.
But I think that having it there where something that it goes out to everybody's a brilliant idea, right? That it's right there. And so I think that's, great idea. I think that
Okay.
makes perfect sense, because that's something that we can just refer people to, and having that visual, I think, will help them a lot. Any other thoughts on that?
I think if we do a print brochure, we're going to want to do something timeless and possibly not list board members because of the change. But of course, on the website, I mean, we can do what we want and change things every day, all day. If I had some headshots of other board members, that would be great for the website.
Unfortunately, they're not here. As long as you don't want updated ones. Mine's a couple years old, but
I have yours.
I know that's what I'm saying, but it's a couple years old.
Well, no,
You have mine and you have Dan's.
that's it.
Yeah.
So, now they must be on file for their IDs, aren't they? Are those pictures get kept when pictures are taken for IDs?
We have some that we could probably use. I think Amy was looking for board members to have the opportunity to put their best picture forward.
Well, maybe the way to do it is to put one up there, and then they'll
Because-
be able to.
They aren't always the best picture forward. Just saying.
No, I think that makes some sense. But I think it is, I think it is helpful when people are new to the community and come to a meeting, that they have that opportunity to see who's who. So
There's no criticism of Ashley's ability to take a picture whatsoever.
no, I mean, most of those are like, we're out in front of Maura's office, right? When they were
Right.
taken, and it was just sort of
Right.
like, need something quick to to get a picture. So anyway, I think that in addition to that, I know that I believe it is the Goshen School District has a statement on open government, and as part of their board web page. They've got some FOIL information on there, and I think that there's no downside to making people aware of what they can be aware of. So, and again, exactly what goes up there, I think, can be further discussed. But those are just some ideas that might end up on the web page. So I'll share that stuff out. That it's semi-organized on my laptop, and maybe even right after we get done with this meeting, I can organize a little bit and share that out. The other thing that I had was something we've talked about for quite a while as a tagline, or something that is kind of helps define us, and is not, there was one that was kicked around for a number of years when I was first on the board, and I used to challenge. It was actually quite nice, but I would always challenge the other board members to recite it from memory, and they never could, because it was fairly long, and I think that we need something that's quick. And this came on my radar again. There, kind of convoluted story, but there was somebody that was working on a dairy down in Connecticut that has begun working with, has a photography business, and then was working with dairy farms, and had started to work on branding with different photographers and then agriculture. And so anyway, we were talking one day, and she and I was just talking about my experience on the communications committee, and so she asked what our about our website, pulled it up, and that was like, she let out a big groan and was like, oh, there's nothing, like you need something that, that people can remember. You need something on there that, from her branding, training and perspective. And I think that makes some sense. So, so I think that's something that, that we should spend some time on. And I mean, and we've kicked it around a bit, but we've never come up with anything that that really took hold. So, and I think there's going to be one out there for us. We just need to find it. Any thoughts, agreements, disagreements on trying to come up with some sort of tagline?
Well, I was just going to say that didn't something get put out there last spring? I have a list here from Dave of ones that came out generated from the students, maybe. But I feel like maybe a more organized attempt at doing something like that might be worthwhile.
Yeah, we put out a survey, kind of a generic survey to faculty and staff and for kids about their ideas of what a slogan might look like, and those were the basics of the suggestions that were provided.
Yeah, maybe we need to either cast a wider net. I don't remember any of those really grabbing us, but we could look at them again. And
I think bits and pieces in there, because I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
And our last thought that had some possibilities that they came out of there, but nothing that just jumped right out and said, "Hey, this is it."
Right. There's certainly none I can remember, and so I think that's always sort of my. I mean, if anybody without having just looked at that can remember a couple of those, then maybe those ones we should consider.
Well, I wonder if setting some parameters, like we're looking for 3 or 4 words, no more, something short and sweet to the point, giving some more specific guidance might be worthwhile.
Right. Well, yeah, no, I think that's a good point. I think and I guess I don't know. I assume there's a quasi scholarly body of work on coming up with these, and and kind of how answering some of those exact questions, Karen, right? Of how long we want it to be, and but I think it's got to be memorable, right? I mean, that's the whole point, is that just do it. Everybody remembers it because it's 3 words, and most of us can remember 3 catchy words. You get a lot longer than that. And, that's right. Just Do It was on the list. No, you're right. And that one I think we might have some challenges with if we tried to claim that we had it first. And then other things that we've talked about are an involved plan for what we the way we go about trying to attract students. So Granville's worked hard at this. I mean, there's actually 1 or 2 now Rupert kids who go to Granville, which is just crushing to me. I just can't imagine how that could ever happen. And but they've worked harder at it, right? And they actually make an effort, and they do a really nice job with it. And I think that that piece, that's a bigger question. I don't think I think we'd like to get some nice easy wins here first before we weigh into that. But that's something that always I think about because I think there's just opportunities for students that are going to go somewhere, and I think we benefit when they decide to come to us. So so that's one that's kind of on the horizon for me. But I think some of these other shorter term ones would be nice to be able to check off first.
Well, I think the shorter term ones might play into, if you have a tagline and a logo that you're using on stuff. Can hopefully play into any materials that you put out.
Right. No. So jump into that logo piece. I mean, because we'd had logo discussions independent also of the gym floor, right? I mean, the gym floor piece we kind of decided to simplify a bit, but where were we at on the general logo discussion?
Last I had the general logo discussion was we had some of the work that was done previously. Looks like this, if you remember.
Yep.
Right. That was the last piece where we decided to go another direction to avoid the gender issues that may result with this.
Right.
was where we went, and that's where the S came from. There were still some conversations prior, and I think the other conversations were about the older logo and the newer logo, like the newer logo being the one that you see on the webpage currently. You know, that had the whatever liberty,
Yeah.
freedom and liberty onto it.
Freedom.
Listed, that being the newer logo, and then the one that is currently on the gym floor, but the one you generally see, like if I send you an email, that's the purple and white, or if you walk, our hallways are now dots every 6 feet. That head down the floor is basically a version of that. And then looking at what type of cleanup change adjust to the general that we want to make. But that's as far as it went because it kind of switched over because that logo conversation was about the gym floor. And then once we got that kind of that first look at the general, decided to head more toward the S.
Yep.
On the gym floor.
So I would suggest we check off the final S before we start weighing into the general logo. And,
Okay.
And with some of that to maybe have like an athletic and an academic logo, kind of that difference, right?
Yep. Saratoga Springs does that. You know, they're the blue streaks, and that's where you see the S and the lightning bolt everywhere. But on the academic side, it's the Lady of Hope is the statue in Congress Park. I forget her name, but you'll see her in some of those in some letterhead, and it's actually part of their top academic award.
Yep.
That's there. So
perfect. Well, we can revisit that later as we prioritize a couple other things before that. What else? There was I had one other thing. Let me just pull up my list here. I guess there's well, two other things. One is the branding piece that I think some of this also plays into for the same reason as the recruitment piece. So I think that's something else that can and that's a bigger, longer conversation. So but I think some of these other pieces will help flesh that out a little bit. And then the last one, I believe, on my list, at least my current list, is webpage, and so we're well into our new webpage. Do we have anything else to do on that? Are we happy with the outcome? Do we feel confident that most people are happy with the outcome? Any thoughts or ideas on that? I'm going to take that as we're not sure.
Yeah.
So you're muted, Dave.
I mean, I've had a few teachers or even in the elementary office say they've gotten positive feedback, but if somebody has negative feedback, they're probably not going to tell me or probably not know I'm the person to tell. So any layout or remapping. The other day, I just moved over the recorded meetings from what they were initially under our district, and I moved them under the board and then put the subcommittees under there as well. Just the mapping.
Yep.
The mapping made more sense to me.
Yep. No,
So
I would agree.
along the way as we go, anything to make it easy, more user-friendly and easier for the user. Because I was telling Dr. Glover, initially when I started moving things from the old website, who knew COVID was going to be around forever? And all of a sudden the meetings, the recorded meetings list grew. And I said, oh, we can't have that. So they're moved, they're reorganized.
So there's recorded meetings. There's there's board recorded meetings under board, and then
and we have the subcommittees.
Okay. And then are there other areas where there's recorded presentations? The stuff that administrative presentations on COVID?
Yes, that's under the COVID communications.
Right, so I go to, also go to COVID-19 information updates, click on COVID-19 information and updates.
Yes.
Is there any way to actually have the 4 things that appear after I click on that just appear as a pull down?
Yes, I have to reorganize the pages to do that, but I noticed that the other day, and I know why it's doing it, or I should say, or not doing it like the other ones.
Okay. Yeah, I think that makes sense just to reduce a click that,
Yep.
Because when I was just looking there, I didn't actually click on that. Particularly, you know, when you're in areas where cell coverage or where internet's not great, then you're thinking, okay, I don't want to invest the time to see what's under here. I'm gonna go do a quick other pull down to see if it happens to be somewhere else.
Exactly. No, but I was on Friday. I actually called Blackboard because I said, "Why is this doing this?" And then they told me why, and I said, "Oh, okay. I gotta do some moving."
Perfect.
So,
Excellent.
so it looks the same. The layout is a little different, which is why it is not doing that.
Okay. I feel like there was one other question I had on it. And it just had to do back with the conversation we've had a few times on what we call our different, what we call our elementary school versus our junior high, senior high, right? About what is Sam Washington Academy and what is, you know, if that represents all of it, or if that just, you know, there have been at some point historically that's represented everything. And then at some point in the last decade or so, decade and a half, it switched to only referring to the junior high and high school.
Yep.
And we talked about that. I think we had decided that we refer to everything, but then I was thinking that hadn't necessarily come through completely on the website yet.
Part of the challenge with that is if the entire district is referred to as Salem Washington Academy, people don't know with the subsites if they're on the high school site or the elementary site, because somebody who also worked on the website with me, who I didn't tell him we did that initially, was very confused by it. And I know why he was confused. And brought that as a potential issue of navigation problems.
So I would argue, I guess, that that we might be able to figure out a way to not have that be the deciding factor on what we call what, right? I mean, if Sam Washington Academy, if Sam Washington Academy refers to all of it, and then it says, you know, junior high, senior high on that web page, or it says elementary, or something like that, as a, and I'm not married to that. That's just historically what that's what all of those who've come before us have decided was the way it would be named, until at some point recently that had changed a little bit. So just clarity, I guess, was partially and I don't actually, I'm as I'm talking, I'm looking around here quick, and I don't actually see where is the
select a school that we're looking for.
Select a school. Yeah, that's exactly what I was looking for. I was looking for pull down. Yeah, so there is still there, right? And so, because I'm thinking that's what do we have that discussion about what we call what? Because I don't think the website should drive it. I think that that the brand should drive it, right? And then the website reacts to the brand, not that the website drives the brand. But
And I'm curious too, you know, so I just clicked on Salem Elementary School up there, and it comes up with a picture of the pre-Kers, and it says Salem Elementary School right at the top of the page.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm not seeing where it seems labeled pretty clearly to me. I don't know.
But I'm saying when I had both subsites labeled as Salem Washington Academy.
Oh, so they were both Salem Washington.
Yeah.
And you could put, I don't know, could we put like in parentheses or something, even like K through 6, or, you know, 7 through 12?
Well, I guess so. I mean, that's kind of what I was thinking, Dan. I mean, is there an argument to not name everything Salem Washington Academy that we would go in contra to our forefathers and mothers and change that? Because it seems to me we just say select a school, we say elementary school, we could easily say junior high, senior high, and then the whole kit and caboodle's Salem Washington Academy. I guess I just feel like we had this conversation, and I was surprised to see it still on the website this way. Now I understand a little bit more why, but I guess I'm just curious how we want to make this decision. If we want to make a recommendation to the board and have the board make this decision, which I think is probably what we should do. I don't think we necessarily want to feel like we made the decision in the committee and then find out we actually didn't. So I'm
So,
just curious
Bob,
where we,
you know, when we're looking at what you're really talking about is returning to, what the community recognizes the school as being is Salem Washington Academy. That's the piece that needs to be rebranded and remarketed, because when I came here, in 2014, it was Salem Central School District. The academy was mentioned to me, but it was never talked about as being the academy. So in time, I would ask people, okay, where's the academy? Where's not the academy? And folks were telling me the academy was the high school. So whatever that change happened more than 7. So was it 10, 15? I don't know when that switch took over.
likewise.
So, but to do, to that marketing piece, your website is part of that marketing plan, right? So the part that needs to go to the board is the marketing plan and the branding plan that this committee puts together. That's the piece that goes to the board and says, we want to reestablish ourselves as Salem Washington Academy, and this is how we want to do it. And then when the board says, yep, we agree with the committee, and then it approves that marketing plan or that branding plan, then that comes back administratively, and it's like, okay, Amy, now let's talk about how we're going to make this elementary website be Salem Washington Academy, but differentiate it from the high school version of it. That's when that makes sense?
Yeah, it makes some sense. I mean, I think that, I mean, certainly it makes some sense that as far as, because really that gets into a bigger discussion is, do we make a recommendation to the board does the committee at some point think it makes sense to make a recommendation to the board to actually reclaim that name? We use it, right? I mean, it's the name of our teachers bargaining unit. It's the name that appears on our diplomas. It's in our alma mater. And it's what most people around town over a certain age would refer to it as.
Right.
Now that's a little bit different, I think, than actually, we had discussion about the webpage and maybe the committee was in certain ways making decisions. I just thought that was one we had made. And so I was surprised to see it still that way. And to me, it doesn't seem like much of a hurdle at all to clarify that. But if that's not our intention, or there's people who feel that we don't want to do that, I just want to make sure we're having that conversation, not that we feel like we have the conversation and then lo and behold, actually the change doesn't happen. So I think, one is kind of this smaller scale, just kind of looking at the webpage, feedback on the webpage. The other one is really the bigger picture of what we're called. And I think that does speak very much to the branding piece. There's a number of schools in New York that don't necessarily. So I don't know exactly where their lines are drawn, but like Maple Hill, I may have mentioned that one before, right? So I don't remember the name of that school district, but Maple Hill is what they go by for athletics and school closures, and
Right.
And then there's one Mid Lakes out in maybe Wayne County is another one that I think goes by Mid Lakes, but then I don't think that's actually their CSD name. So, and I'm sure there's more. Those are just a couple that I'm aware of.
Yeah, Ogdensburg Free Academy used to be the full school. Now it's the high school. Mexico actually retains it's a Mexico Central School District, Free Academy and Central School District. It actually retains it all, and it's legal and it's official as its marketing piece. To there. So yeah, there's a lot of ways to keep it and maintain it as being part to that. It's a case of now to that exterior person, to the marketing folks, And I don't have either way to this. It's, the website being the marketing tool for the district is driven by the plan piece. And the plan piece is, to me, is where the committee work is. And then everything else follows what that plan is that the committee creates and establishes, that the board approves, and then administratively we put together.
Perfect. So that's a good bit of background then on that. I mean, that I didn't necessarily intend for us to have as much discussion on this as we did, but I think that's fine. But that's clearly something then that we can, I would, put on the, maybe not the back burner, somewhere between the front burner and the back burner, something that, after we get these first couple things out of the way, that something that we discuss, because I think that has potential to be part of the, a significant part of the branding marketing piece. Other thoughts, other ideas?
So I may have missed this in the last few months. Very well could have. But did we ever get any response back from the survey we put out when we did the vote in May? And we were asking about the communication piece and improvements or how things have been with COVID. Did I just miss that?
Karen, you didn't get it in your email?
No, I must have missed it.
Okay, I'm not muted.
It's 2020.
I didn't pay every night. Let me double check. It might be, Dan, do you remember it being in the shared drive?
I'll look real quick.
Okay. If it's not in the shared drive, let me know and I will email it to Karen. I can re-find it. I'm pretty sure I thought I emailed it to everybody. Bob, do you remember getting it?
Yeah,
Me neither.
I can't say if I do. I can't say if I don't. Honestly, I
Okay.
think probably, but
Okay.
I feel like I'm vaguely aware of the results, so I feel like I must have, because I'm not sure else I'd be vaguely aware of the results. So.
I know it got shared. I just can't remember if it got shared here or if it got shared at the board.
Right. No, it's good.
Or if it got shared at both. But I want to say I emailed it to you guys.
Okay, I'll recheck.
Okay. If not, zip me an email and I'll zip it right to you. Okay?
Actually, if you could just resend that, Dave, if you just resend that out, that'd be great.
Okay.
And
Sure.
Yeah, I don't think I see it in the shared drive.
Okay. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, I'm looking through. I don't see it either.
Okie dokie. Well, let me
Yeah.
see what I can find.
and then I guess the last, this may be the third time I've said the last thing that I have is, I'll probably say it again, is so a couple different people that I have followed in one way or another, that potentially I thought it might make sense if they would, I think that I could get one or two of them to present to the communications committee. And so one was on the, I can't think of the name of it, but it was basically the branding piece. Right? So maybe if that makes sense to people, we could receive a presentation at either our November or December meeting on just, that I think that would help. It's helped me sort of clarify a little bit my understanding of that message and the importance of that message, right? Which is a little bit different than, but I think it helps in building the message is kind of having a better understanding of how messages are received, and so is that any objections to having a half hour or something presentation from somebody at one of our subsequent meetings?
I think it's a good idea.
Excellent. All right. Sorry, I just had I was having someone join me, so tried to get a few more minutes. But so what is it? It's about quarter of. I mean, so I think we kind of have laid out some next steps, and I think we will. So Liz is still interested in being on. and I think Naomi is as well. I anticipate she is. So, and like I said, there'll be one or two other people potentially joining us, and feel free to, if there's others who are, I mean, maybe we want to make another call to the community if there's others who are interested in joining in. Anything else that we feel like we should cover tonight? Ms. Adams, anything? I'm happy to see you here, and thank you for joining us.
No, I'm all set. Just was glad to be able to join in, trying to stop by when I can make it. It's nice to be able to hear everybody's thoughts and participate in the process. So thank you.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
So Bob, sounded like we're winding down. What do we want for next meeting agenda? Or you just want to put that together and forward it to me?
Sure. I'll put something together and then we can,
Okay.
I'll send it to you, and if there's anything I leave off. But I mean, I think we're gonna have those higher priority things. The, I think logo and brochure, gym floor logo and brochure will be,
Okay.
and I guess the last piece is, do we, one thing that I personally, I think I would find beneficial would be to potentially have one of these be a bit of a work session, right? I mean, like we talked about, I guess it was at the equity committee, was, do we want to basically get together, meet, and then go about our lives for a month and then come back and meet again? Or do we want to be doing homework, or do we want to have some of the time here spent instead of just kind of talking about what we're going to do, actually, maybe breaking up into a little bit smaller groups? WebEx would allow us to do that and then come back together with some ideas. We're not a huge group to start with, so maybe we just do it as a group. But and so I guess that we don't need an answer on that, but I think it's just something for us to stay productive. I know that, like, the policy committee was doing, they do quite a bit of work outside of that meeting. And so for those of us on the committee, do we, and I think, probably a hybrid might make some sense, because we'll have a chance to look at those S's before the next one, but just something to think about. And we will have an agenda for next meeting. Any any parting thoughts of wisdom from anyone? Excellent. All right. Well, thanks everybody.
All right.
Thanks.
Have a good night.